Good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing? Come on, it's Monday. And there's danishes. Couldn't get better than that. And it's not raining. All right. Well, welcome to the Tableau Higher Ed user group and / Tableau days. We're merging with Tableau to bring y'all in, and if you normally came to the user group or have never come to the user group and just curious on Tableau and what it's about, or use it a lot and want more information or just want to get out of the office. Not sure. Anyway. So what's going to happen today? Well, we have a couple reps from Tableau who have come in from a couple different areas of the United States. Alex Rice is going to talk to us about Tableau in the world of higher education, which is great. That's where we are. And Rick is going to talk about what's new in Tableau as far as some of the new features and whatnot. That's going to take about an hour, and then after that we're going to do a little technical couple-minute transfer, and then we're going to have a couple of our power users discuss some tips, tricks, and interesting whatnots that have come up in our development or use in Tableau and share them with you, and then open it up for some discussions because we want to involve you guys with the
Yeah, just
okay.
Cool. Welcome, everyone. I'm Alex, as Tara introduced us. Thank you, Tara, for starting it off. And hello to all the people that are remote in Chicago and remote from their computers as well. So just a quick intro. Rick and I make up the account team that supports the University of Illinois as well as a lot of the other universities in this area and in Illinois. And really our job is to, for the existing users of Tableau to make sure that you guys are well supported, that everything is going smoothly. And I think I'll have Tara send out my information to all of you afterwards so that if questions come up and, if anything that you need, you can contact me for. I'm your point of contact. I think that some of you may have worked with Greg Lyons in the past. Is that a familiar name? I see some nods in the crowd. Okay. So I am the new, Rick and I collectively are the new Greg Lyons. Hopefully we will, I know we have big shoes to fill, but hopefully we will do that. So
I'm size 11, my shoes. So
yeah. So yeah, anyways, I make up I'm the account manager, and Rick here is my technical counterpart. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Rick.
I'm Rick.
Yeah, I'm the technical counterpart, so I make sure we're projecting when it turns off and things like that. More importantly, though, with Tableau, that I can handle a lot of questions you might have, things like that. So I'm going to show you what's new in Tableau 10.2 and what's up and coming in 10.3. And Alex is going to start off with this little poll, right?
Oh yeah, we're going to do a poll.
We're going to do a poll in this room. Sorry, Chicago again.
Okay, so Chicago, hold tight. We're going to do a poll of the room that we have here in Champaign of kind of who we've got in the room. You know, do we have experienced users? Do we have people that have never seen Tableau before? Rick and I weren't sure. I know this is kind of blended with a user group, so we probably have a lot of users, but we just want to kind of get an idea in Tableau of who we've got in the room. So
who's never seen Tableau before? Never even seen it? All right, we have a whole 2.
Okay.
All right.
We've got 2.
We got 2.
Okay.
And
enter.
Tab or click. Or, there you go.
Okay.
That's your 2. Big red ball there. Okay. Who has seen it? And what's the oh yeah, you've seen it before, but you've never opened it. You've never played with it yourself, but you've seen other people use it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay. 13. Uh-oh.
That's one in the back. Barely came up there. Okay. What's next? Little use. Those of you that have gone in, you played with it a little bit, you've used it a little bit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, quit changing it on me, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, when you do this, it means you're answering the question. When your hand is down, it means you're not. 20.
20.
All right.
Okay.
So there are 20 people here of little use.
Man, you got a lot of...
All right. Moderate users, you've gone into Tableau, you're fairly comfortable, you can build a viz, you're having a great time. You put them up or you put them down. Just there we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15.
All right.
All right.
And last.
And last. How many want my job?
Yeah.
How many are real comfortable with Tableau? You can make design, you can tell other people about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
All right, for those of you that have never seen Tableau before, you cannot say that anymore. This is Tableau. It's a visualization tool that allows you to see your data, allows you to understand data visually. For instance, do we have more red or do we have more blue on the screen? Instant, it's red. So those of you who are of little use or only seen it, those who are less experienced, outnumber those who have more experience, but pretty much we're at about a 60-40 split here. And that tells us how we have to gear what we present to you today towards you people. So for those of you who have a lot of experience, if Alex is going through something basic and you're like, I know that, just feel proud, don't feel bored, okay?
Thank you, Rick. Okay, this looks great. That looks like a abstract flower we got going here. Okay.
Yeah.
You just make a funny face at me. Oh, gosh.
No, I didn't say, I just said yes.
Okay. Oh.
You're in the middle. Yeah, that's
All right. So what I want to do to start off, I know some of you are, very well versed in Tableau, so this looks familiar. But what I want to do really quick is I just want to run through a quick tour of Tableau from a higher education's perspective, I suppose. And so I know this looks familiar to some of you. What I'm going to do is I'll move kind of quickly, so I'm going to take the role of maybe an analyst that is experienced with Tableau and just kind of show you the workflow of how I would connect to data, how I would ask questions and answer them, and kind of start creating visualizations in the tool itself. So if it looks a little bit quick, you can raise your hand and say, Alex, slow it down, I have a question. But it's meant to, I'm not going to show you every feature, it's just kind of meant to give you a quick overview of what it looks like and what's possible with Tableau. So here we are in the blank canvas. For those of you that don't know Tableau, this is kind of what I call the blank canvas. This is where we connect to data and we start pulling in our different data fields to create our visualizations. So let me back up really quick. I'm going to set a quick scenario. I'm no longer Alex from Tableau. Now I am Alex from the department. I'll just say I work for the University of Illinois, I guess, and I work for the International Students and Scholar Services Department. I think that's what you guys call it here, International Students Services Department. So I work as maybe an analyst or someone within that department, and my boss comes up to me and she says, hey, Alex, we've been seeing a decline in international student enrollment lately. We're not really sure where that's coming from, but we're kind of concerned that we're seeing a decline, and we're curious, is that, are we giving them Is that because we're giving them less funding or less grants or financial aid? Is that something else? You know, what countries are they coming from? What countries are we seeing decline from? I'm like, okay, hold on, slow down. Okay, let me take a look. And so what I'm going to do is I'll say, okay, I'm going to go into Tableau, and I know I have a data set that kind of looks at my international student enrollment. I've connected to it already here. Rick very nicely did that for me because I'm using his computer, but just say I hadn't connected to my data yet. I'm going to go in and connect to a new data source. For the purpose of this, I'm using an Excel file, but I know a lot of you connect to the data server or to a more robust database. That's all possible with our native connections here. But for the purpose of this, I'm connecting straight to an Excel file. Rick, I don't know where you have this located. Desktop. I'm using Rick's computer today, so there it is, Education Admins. Okay. So I'm just going to open this up, and it's going to go straight into Tableau here. I'll drag it in. I'm like, okay, I've got my data is populated. It's in. Everything looks good. For those of you that are not familiar with this pane, this is where you can drag your data in, join and blend, which is something that Rick will go over later. And you can choose a connection type, whether you want to extract that data or connect live to your database and maybe make any adjustments right here. But for now, I'm like, okay, this looks good. Let's pop in, and I'm going to start asking some questions about my international student enrollment. Okay, so first of all, my manager says we're seeing a decline. Is that even true? I want to know what's going on here. So I'm going to take a look at my number of records here, which is, actually, I'm going to go back to the one I had here. Okay. So what I want to just look at, first of all, is my number of students. So I'm looking at, or you know what, actually, no. I want to know where my students are coming from. What areas of the whole world are my students enrolling in the University of Illinois? So I'm going to double click on country here. And I can see, okay, we have a map populated. Lots of different countries that our students are coming from. That's a good sign, I suppose. We've got a lot of diversity at the university. But I'm curious where each, what countries we're seeing the most students from. So I'm going to drag the number of students to color here just to take a look at, where most of our students are coming from. Well, no surprise, it's the darker blue indicates where most of our students are coming from, which is the United States. We're based in Illinois, so that makes sense. But for the purpose of my analysis, I don't need to know that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly exclude this from my analysis, and that doesn't change any of the underlying data. So now I'm looking, okay, now we can get a little bit better of a picture of where our students are coming from. The darker blue indicates a higher influx of students from that country, so we're seeing Mexico and Canada. And maybe, you know what, I don't really like this color. I'm going to change it so that I can kind of make that analysis pop a little bit more. What do I like? I like this orange gold. The more orange indicates more students. Okay, cool. So we can see here, okay, Mexico, Canada, and maybe I want to drag my number of students to label to really kind of make that pop. So we can see, okay, we've got 183 students from Mexico, 17 from Brazil, and maybe I don't want to look at the actual number of students. I'm like, I just want to actually see a ranking of the top countries as far as how many students are coming. So I'm just going to change that to a rank. And so now I can see number 1 is Mexico here, 2 Canada, 3 is probably over here somewhere. We've got Korea with 92 students. Okay, so we've got a map. I know a little bit more about where my students are coming from. So now that I know that, I'm curious to know, okay, what majors and what colleges are these students enrolling in? And one thing that I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to apply the filter, which I created a filter when I excluded the United States from my analysis. I'm just going to apply that to all using the data source. And then moving forward, we're not dealing with United States data because I don't care about those guys right now. So let's just rename this, countries. Okay. So now I'm thinking, okay, I want to look at my students again, now I'm just looking at the students that are from international countries. I've got a little over 1,000 that I'm looking at over the course of, I think, a few years. And I'm curious, okay, what colleges are they coming from? So I'm going to double click on college here. I'm thinking, okay, we've got, maybe 10 different colleges. I'm going to pivot that so that I can see it a little bit easier, and then maybe drag this out so I can see the full names of each of these colleges. And you know what? I'll sort it as well. So I'm thinking, okay, now I can see them in order. College of Natural Sciences, where we're seeing the most. Arts and Sciences and Social Sciences are right behind, and then we see a big drop-off. And maybe I also want to know, okay, so we have a lot of folks coming into the College of Natural Science, but on average, how much money are we giving them in terms of grants or financial aid? And maybe that's an incentive to either attend or not attend our school. So thinking here, I'm going to drag my total aid to color again. And we can see here, okay, we've got different colors to represent different amounts of aid. And we can see down here, my College of Veterinary Medicine, we actually have 0 aid there. So I'm just going to exclude this from my analysis so that it's not bothering me. And we can see the colors change accordingly now that veterinary medicine is out. So we can see down here, the colleges that we actually have lower enrollment in are the ones that we are giving the most average grant money towards. And actually, to make that pop, I'm just going to drag this to label, and we can now see the amount per student on average that I'm giving to each student in total aid or grant and financial aid funding. So we can see here College of Music is a big one, as well as College of Nursing, even though there are fewer students there, which is kind of an interesting insight to make there. And I'm going to change this sheet to the name, what do we want to call this? Total aid for college. Okay, so now that I know a little bit about like where my students are coming from, how much I'm giving them, and what colleges they're in, I might want to see just over time how these students are doing, and by gender. Are we seeing an increase? Are we seeing a decrease? My manager told me we've been seeing a decrease, but let's prove that point. So again, I'm going to look at the number of students here, and I want to do that by academic year. So I'm thinking, okay, now I can view this as a time series. So actually we're seeing, it looks to me like we're seeing an increase over the last, I think this looks like 10 years. I'm going to drag a trend line on there just so that I can emphasize that point a little bit better. And oh, those ugly confidence line, I want to get rid of those confidence bands. Okay, so we can see, okay, generally it's trending up, but if I just highlight the previous 3 years, or if I grab these previous 3 years, the trend line shows that actually in the last 3 years we're having quite a downward trend. So that is a little bit concerning, and I'm curious if that's for both males and females. So I'm just going to pull gender in here too. I just double clicked it and Tableau automatically recognized that a good way to visualize that would be by putting them on color. So you can see that actually we've seen a higher increase of females over the last 10 years, increase in males, but still over these last 3 years we are seeing a downward trend, especially in males. So that might be something that we want to look at further. So now that I have 3 visualizations that kind of tell me a little bit about what's going on, I want to piece them together and look at them as a whole. And how can I do that? I'm going to create a dashboard with all my visualizations in one place. And actually, let's rename this sheet quickly to enrollment over time, maybe. I'm just winging it with these names. So now, as the analyst that I am, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to create a dashboard where all of these visualizations can interact. So I've created a dashboard here, and you can see on the side, this is where all of the visualizations that I've already created reside. And I can just drag those in pretty easily, like drag and drop. And you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to make this device a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it on the screen. I know that the room's a little bit big. Okay, so that's a little bit better. So I'm going to drag this in, the total aid, enrollment over time. Maybe I want to change this, fit it a little bit better. I'm going to fit the height. Okay. So now we can see it all in one graph, but if I select something, nothing really happens. What I want to do is have my different visualizations interact with each other. So what I'm going to do is, oops, not click that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use each visualization as a filter for one another. And how I do that is I click this little funnel button in the top corner, and I know how to do that since I've used Tableau before. And now when I click a certain country, for example, Mexico, I can see each of the colleges and see all the other visualizations interact with each other. So it's really helpful for a kind of a collaborative way to look at the different data points. And something that I might notice is, okay, so College of Natural Science, I can also click on that and see how my different countries interact. And I see that Canada's gone from 2 to 5, so it looks like Canadians aren't that good at natural science. And I don't want to make that a sweeping statement, so don't quote me on that. This is sample data. But maybe I want to see what Canada is good at. I'll click on Canada and we see, okay, natural science. Well, we're paying kids in natural science from Canada to come. Maybe that's because we don't see very many Canadians that are good at natural science. I don't know. But we see a lot of folks from social science, arts and sciences, and we can see kind of where the funding and where the grant and aid is going accordingly. So once I do that, I'm said, okay, this is kind of a good dashboard. I can kind of present this to my management, and we can use that to do further analysis and dig down a little bit deeper. I'm going to publish that right into Server, which I know a lot of you have used, and we don't have access to that on Rick's computer here because I'm using Rick's computer. But what I would do next is I'd publish that into my server where, the other folks on my team could interact with that dashboard and even go and make edits if I allowed them to, so that we can kind of continue that conversation. I'll bring it into my next meeting. I can do this? Oh, you can connect to localhost? I was going to. Well, usually I connect to online, Rick. For those in Chicago that can't hear, Rick is giving me a hard time right now. Do you want me to connect in? I'm on your thing, so I don't think we need to connect. I mean, they know what that looks like.
I want to see how easy it is.
Okay. Yeah, you just got to put in your password for us.
Okay, now you did it. There we go. Normally you don't have 17 servers to choose from.
That's true.
Okay. Server, publish workbook. Are you going to go through the options? You just want to publish it?
Yeah, I'm just going to publish it. So fairly easy. Sorry, I was on Rick's computer, so I didn't have his login credentials for the server, but you can name it here. You can choose what sheets you want to be in there. And it says all sheets. Let's just add the dashboard. I just want the finished product. And okay, now dashboards. And so then you just publish, and it'll go right into Tableau Server, which I know a lot of you probably currently use, where it's accessible by web browser and fully interactive, just the same way that I was showing you within Tableau Desktop. And a little bit of loading, it'll be right here. Rick, where did we publish? Please. accordingly, and collaborate that way. But go ahead. What's your question? Oh, cool.
So if you go back to the Tableau career,
Mm-hmm. Right here, you mean?
Yeah, on the left panel,
Uh-huh.
when you were manipulating the data file, there are measures and dimensions.
Yes.
Do you have to define that in Excel or in your database, or are those features that you define?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry that I didn't go over that. So, oh, could people in Chicago hear because she had the microphone, or is that?
No, you have to.
Oh, okay. So she was asking if, you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got a dimensions and measures. And that is where our different fields from our Excel sheet populate. And she was asking, is that something that you have to define within Excel or within Tableau, or does Tableau do that on its own? And the short answer is Tableau will automatically recognize your different data fields, and it will assume or guess, and usually it's pretty accurate, as to whether it's a dimension or a measure. And usually what a dimension means is that's a categorical field. That'll be something like the name of the college or the name of the major. A measure is a numerical field. That's something that you will be doing, calculations on. That's number of students, the amount of funding or the amount of aid that they're given, that sort of thing. Sometimes Tableau will make a mistake and it might recognize something as something it shouldn't be. For example, student ID might be a number and it might think, oh, that's a numerical field. I got to do a calculation on it. You can easily, let's see if there's, for example, yeah, just say that was a, SAT score. It was actually a dimension. You can just drag, oops. Let me see. If you do notice that Tableau made that mistake, you can just drag it up and it'll populate right in the dimensions pane. Super easy, but usually Tableau is pretty good at recognizing it on its own. Does that kind of help answer your question? Absolutely. So she's going to ask us to take a look at the Excel sheet really quickly just so she can look. Where is it? Okay. Here we go. So you guys can see that it's, here I'll make it a little wider so you can see all the names. So you've got student ID, you can see academic year, country, and of course, Rick's got fancy Zoom on his computer here, so this is helpful. Student ID, academic year, you can see that it looks pretty standard as far as columns and rows of an Excel sheet that you might see. Thanks, Rick. Rick's good with all the Zoom stuff. Do you have any other questions, or is that helpful? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It has geospatial capabilities. How microscopic is it? At the zip code level, the track level?
Sure.
Is it the country level? It seems it's just the name of the country.
Yeah. So it'll automatically, Tableau. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to repeat the question. So the question is, obviously we saw the map create a country view, but how granular does it get automatically? How granular can Tableau automatically recognize within a data set? And the answer is Tableau can recognize down to the zip code level. That is automatically built in. However, he's going to show a little bit of that. You could do states, cities, zip codes. I think we have congressional districts. That's all automatically built in. However, Rick's going to show this later. A new feature that came with 10.2 is the ability to connect directly to spatial files. So you can actually connect directly to a custom geo territory if that's something that you have. Furthermore,
these are the baked in ones that you're seeing here.
Oh, thanks.
So it even goes to city. Nuts if you're in Europe. I have no idea what nuts is. It's just funny.
Yeah.
So, zip code and whatnot, and then like she said, your custom geospatial files. Mm-hmm. But these are the out of the box ones you're looking at right here. And
what I work with, a lot of people that I work with, they might need a specific address level, maybe a home or a specific address. As long as you have the latitudes and longitudes for that address, it all will import in seamlessly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it comes out in the point release. If the congressional districts or any of the geospatial areas change, you will get a point release on that.
And we do updates about once a quarter, so about 4 times a year.
There was another question over here.
Oh, and sorry for the folks in Chicago. He was asking. Oh,
I restated the answer to the question.
All right.
Clever.
He was asking about congressional districts. Sorry, guys.
The answer is yes. No, I wanted to, the question was, can you do, I'm stalling while I'm trying to find it here. There we go. Can you do like a map of campus or something like that? Actually, I live up in Cleveland, and so I did a demonstration for the Cleveland Zoo. And one of the things I did is I went to the internet and I stole their map of the zoo.
Oh, Rick.
Yes, I did. And then I populated over top of that attendance into different areas, and it's based on an XY coordinate. Or you could use lat long with a calculated conversion to an XY because you're putting it over a non-map, really. You're putting it over an image. So you could put your campus map there, and you could even create custom polygons to go over the buildings or something like that if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. If you had custom polygons or custom shapefiles, I've seen campuses also do a shapefile for different areas of campus that looks pretty customized in Tableau. And some of those are public facing, so if you want, I can talk to you afterwards and give you a link that will kind of show you what that looks like for a few other universities that do it. Oh, question over here? Oh, we've got a question online. Okay. Yes. What is it called? Repeat that one more time.
Okay, I will repeat the question so the remote people that asked the question can hear me say it. What is it called when at the beginning we entered in these confidence levels? That wasn't really data, we didn't pull it from a file. Tableau has the ability to create what's called a parameter, and that's just kind of a creative use for it here to get this, but something that you could use it more for is, let's say you had 3 regions and you had a single map or something like that. You could create a parameter that said north, south, east, southwest, your little triangle of regions there. And then you could choose that parameter and have it hooked to a data filter somewhere that would automatically just change those regions around. Lots more creative uses you can use for parameters, but it allows you to input data not into the data source, but into the doable.
Yeah, I think what I've seen universities use parameters for is with the numerical is kind of as a what if analysis. So if we were to increase our budget by X amount, you can type that into a parameter and see how things would look if the parameter was at that value. So we use it a lot for that.
Yeah, or how well your department's doing. You could put a parameter on that and just put like a number 2 or 3 and it would multiply everything by 2 or 3. Then you print that out and you present it. That's another good use for it.
A million ways we could use parameters. I'm like, oh man, and you could do it with your financial aid. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Got it. I see. She's talking about in the dashboard. So she's asking in the dashboard here, for those in Chicago, you can see I put kind of lame titles here. It says countries, totally college. Do you want to?
Are you familiar with it? Putting parameter in there?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Do it.
All right.
So she was asking if when you select
use that pixelation to find this unit point. Its latitude and longitude, its XY is 300 by 150. And you put that into your data, or you make a conversion into your data so that it can do that.
Since it's just a specific, it's an image, it doesn't, Tableau is not recognizing that image as a specific location. It's a little bit more manual. If you were to do something like that on a map, I think it would involve a polygon or spatial file.
Well, if you were using a polygon, then you would have to create a spatial file and change the coordinates from its lat long. Either change the coordinates or, like I said, create a calculation. If the latitude is 41.3782653, come up with an algorithm to convert it to 6, or whatever it is. I know there's algorithms out there to convert lat long to XY until you get things to line up. It's a little more work up front because lat long is universally recognized. But yeah, it's if you are using a try play movie game. Thank you. That's so sweet of you.
Cortana is trying to help us. Windows 10, right? Okay.
That would be great.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And something he'll go over when he goes over some of the new features in the latest versions of Tableau will be some of the spatial file and geospatial connectors.
Sure.
Oh, maybe I make.
No, I will.
Sure, go ahead.
So, recommend from the chart on the right upper one to make that colors are better.
Yes.
So, is there a way to play with customize the colors?
Sure. So she asked, she remembered that I had taken out the veterinary medicine department to basically make the colors span and look better across the different colleges. That was kind of my quick way of doing it, but certainly you can customize the colors and change. I'll even show you.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
an advanced where it says what is your start, what is your center, what is the mid, or what is your end, what is the center,
Mm-hmm.
and you can fudge and say the end color instead of being this shade of blue, you can make it that shade of blue or whatever you want. You got full control over that. You can create your own custom sequences as well.
You can assign individual colors to individual values, custom. If you want to use our predefined range of colors, we have the recommended pretty to look at colors, which we're using the blue-green palette there. You can define the minimum and maximum value to not be right in the center, like Tableau automatically recognizes, so that outliers like veterinary medicine don't pop up as the only green value.
Can we change the projection of the map? That's an easy answer. No.
What do you mean by projection of the map?
There are different projections of the map. I forget what the different names are and everything, but it's where the space between the countries is more realistic than the flat view that we have right now. At this point, no, it is being looked at. I can guarantee you it's not in our next point release, but it is something that's being looked at to be implemented in the future.
Okay, we've got a couple online questions from Chicago. What happens when there is an empty field in the data? It will show up as a null, or maybe you can show them that.
A couple of different things. What happens if there's an empty field in the data? If there was an empty numeric field here, for instance, total aid was 0. Well, this is a summation of total aid. So it would add 0 into that summation. You wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't even notice it. If you do something over here that's geospatial and there's data missing, you're going to get this little unknown critter down here. And if I click on that, it says there are 3 geographic values that I don't know about. And if I click to edit them, there are some that are null here. It's just missing. And Tableau's telling you, I don't know what to do with this. What do you want to do with it? And we can tell it, just ignore it or go away. Or if one of these was, an actual country, it was just spelled wrong, we could come over here and manually type in the correct, let's say this is really Afghanistan, right? There we go. Okay, so now there's only 2 that are unrecognized, and it's now changed Afghanistan's numbers. So it allows you to manipulate that data.
Sure. So the question was, how did you make all of the sheets or all of the visualizations interact on the dashboard? And if I'm understanding that correctly, it's just a simple click of this funnel button up here. Oh, we've got the weird zoom in. So right now we have it as use this filter. And if you click it, you use this filter, and that will tell Tableau to tell all of the other visualizations in this dashboard to interact when I click on something within this visualization. Now
But there's more.
But there is more.
There's more exciting stuff. The limitations are it needs to be using the same named data. Okay, so if it's from the same data source, that's great, because if I click on country, it knows to filter that data source. But Tableau is powerful enough that if you're using a SQL Server table, an Excel spreadsheet, and an Oracle table, and you join them all together, you can tell it to go across data sources. So if the other data sources have country in it, it will also filter at the same time those different data sources, allowing you to mix your data sources on your visualizations, on your dashboards, and interact as one.
And there's also ways that you can manually go in through this menu and choose, maybe I don't want, oopsies, did I click something? Maybe I don't want all of my visualizations to act when I click on something. Maybe I only want a select few, depending on what I'm looking at, and you can manually select which visualizations that you choose to have interact. Sure.
How does Tableau know data columns are the same across sources by header name?
Data columns across data sources are assumed to be the same if they have the same header name. However, you can manually override and change all that. Yep.
Yeah. I wish I had an example with my higher education data set. He was asking, you might have already repeated this. Okay, well, I don't listen when Rick talks, so I forget.
I'm married, I'm used to it.
Short answer, yeah, I mean, yes. If it was student ID and then student ID number and they were named differently, maybe Tableau wouldn't recognize that they were the same. You can just go in and select them. Yeah. All right. Okay, we've got 2 more questions and then we're going to move on because Rick's going to do his new features and then he's got to skedaddle to Chicago. So busy man. We're lucky to have him. I'll be here all day though. Okay. Yeah. He asked about a radius.
Not a measurement.
Oh, measurement. How do you zoom out?
Can you ask a question to the questioner? The question was about a radius rings, and I'm not sure if we're talking about. Yeah, let me go here, and I want to see if this is what we're really asking about. Yeah, I just want to. Okay. Are we talking about something? Well, that's no good because there's nothing around Canada. Are you talking about something like that where we can select a certain radius out and get multiple hits? Is that what we mean by radius rings? And the answer is? Okay.
By the way, can that radius ring selection be interactive with the published map?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if we were, let's go back to our dashboard, which should have changed with my change.
The question was,
Yeah, good.
is that radius selection interactive when published either to public facing or within server for your colleagues to interact with? And the answer is yes.
Here on the dashboard, it upgrades this stuff based on my selection.
Which is pretty cool.
If we go, okay, we don't really have time to demo a lot of things. We can put up a mileage plot on the map, and then you can drag that circle out to 5, and all the numbers and all the visualizations would update. So if you had number of students enrolled, yes, you would then see the total of the students within that radius.
And if anyone has further questions, I'll be here afterwards, and also I'm going to make sure that we send out all of our info so that you have further questions and you just need to pick my brain on something. We can get those answered. I know that we're kind of limited on time this morning. Do we think we should move forward?
I would like to, unless somebody has something that
What is there? Something
really you're just
pressing?
dying.
I feel like I can see your eyes are. Oh, is it? Oh,
I was just going to say that Sarah doing some new things that are bringing Tableau still more towards the kinds of capabilities you can see in geographic information.
Mhm.
So you've done very well by hiring a geographer from UCSD.
yes. Yeah.
For Chicago, he said he likes Tableau.
Yeah. He said, yeah. We're really excited about the different geographic capabilities that are being introduced in our latest versions and upcoming soon. So I think it's really cool. A lot of it's over my head, but I'm like, this is cool. So without further ado, Rick's going to show us the new features. I know you guys are mostly working on 10.1 for those of you that work with the University of Illinois. But when you do upgrade to 10.2 and 10.3, he's going to show us some of the new features. So take it away.
All right. Thanks, Alex. How do you use this thing? Let's see. Nope, don't want that. Nope, don't want that. But look at all the stuff you opened up on my machine. My goodness. Okay. This is the one I want. All right, I am going to talk to you today about what's new in 10.2 and 10.3. Now, if you can't read the screen, don't worry. The screen is actually for me, not for you. These are my talk points. I actually created myself a workbook in Tableau to show you what's new in Tableau. So, over here on the left, it's hard for you to see, and again, you don't really need to, but we have analytics and collaboration, different connectors and data, and all these different areas that are new in Tableau. Tableau 10.2 are the pink objects, and Tableau 10.3 are the purple ones. So I'm first going to go through and show you what's new in 10.2, and hopefully you'll like and get excited about all of this. So I normally ask if anybody in here is interested in Python integration, and usually I get no. But we now have Python integration for predictive models, and since I can't see Chicago, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this anyway. Don't ask me too many details. This is about all I know, but you can now create calculations in Tableau where you have integrated Python into it. If you're saying, what the heck are you talking about, then don't worry about it. If you know what I'm talking about, look at this and go, wow, isn't that great? Okay, and that's all there is to it. So Hello, Chicago. Welcome back. These were data connectors I went through, and I'm not going to go through the names again. You probably saw them, but it's nice to be talking to you again. Moving on to what's new in 10.2 as far as data is concerned. Now, sometimes you'll have data sets where we don't have data from one that can directly join to data from another. So I lost my data. Oh, I know why, because somebody's been messing with my machine. All right, hang on a second. Got to go find my data. There we go. Okay, we're feeling better now. So here I have one data source that has full name, age, and income. Now what I want to do is connect it to another data source that I have. And to do that, I can go out and get my second data source. And it brings that in, and it says, wait a minute, I don't know what the heck you're doing here, because on this data source we have full name. On this data source we have first name and last name. Well, now we allow you to create calculated joins. So I can simply say first name plus a space plus last name, just like that. I say okay, and we connect that to full name, and now we have both our orange over here and our blue over here from the two different files. So you can create a calculated custom join. Notice that first name plus last name doesn't exist anywhere in the body of the data. It's just used for that join. If you're an IT data geek and you're going, whoa, that's not a very efficient way of joining, it's like, true, but at least you can. So, all right, so there's that. What else do we have here? We can export transformed data to a CSV file. When you're in Tableau, you always have the ability to export your data. We can come over here in this visualization and say, I want to look at all the data that's behind here, and I can say export it. And we are exporting the granular level of data here, not necessarily what we want to see, right? So I can come over here and I can put state as a filter, for instance, and say, I'm going to take a risk here. I don't know if this is going to work. Do we have Alabama data? Sure we do. There we go. Okay, and then we can simply say that we want to export cross-tab to Excel, and now it is only exported the data aggregated to run that visualization. So instead of seeing all the data points, it's just showing us that aggregated data behind that visualization. So that's something new. What else do we have? Let's get back here. Oh, we can transform a string to a date with a single click. Okay, so that's pretty easy to do. We also are able to have union updates. What is a union? Remember how we join data by first name and last name and all that? That's joining. That's where I say, take this field from one data set and link it directly to something that matches in this data set. That's a join. A union is where I might have a set of data in this one table or an Excel spreadsheet for 2014 data. Next year, I have the same sheet, but it's for 2015 data in a different file. Another one for 26 data. So what a union is you can bring these in and say, bring me 24, 25, and 26 together and treat it as a single source of data. And that's a union. That's where you make them act as one. We've had that for some time now, but now we can do it for SQL Server, for Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, Redshift, HP, Vertica, and JSON files. So being able to union those types of files is something that's new. All right. How many here actively work with Tableau off and on at least? Okay, and you make this great and wonderful viz, and you hit the X and you're done. It says you want to save, and you go no, and I'll stink. Okay, or your computer goes down or something like that. Well, now we have Autosave. Okay, we're used to that in Microsoft, right? If something bad happens, we go back in and it says, hello, something bad happened. Would you like to start where you left off? We now have that in Tableau as well, so that's nice. Oh, this is a fun one. I like doing this one. If you have a need for it, it's a wonderful thing. So here we have a visualization, and I've introduced a color to it. And the color is, blue is high numbers and orange is low numbers. Well, we are talking about sales, quantity, profit, and discount. Now, hopefully, this is a retail thing, right? Hopefully, sales are going to be larger than our discounts, right? So sales is always going to be blue, and discounts are always going to be this pukey little orange-gray thing up here, all right? But what if I wanted to see what is my highest discounts and my highest profits and my highest quantities? How do I create that? It's real simple. You just go to the colors now and you say use separate legends. Pow. Now you've got them colored within their own columns and ranges, and you can adjust those colors using the same functionality we discussed earlier. So just a single little click there, and we have separated these out into their own color regions. I like that. I like colors. Okay, what else do we have new in 10.2? You can install Tableau Desktop on a Mac programmatically. Most of you go, so what? There's maybe one person here who's getting excited about this, so it's okay. Are you the one getting excited? Oh, okay. Okay, we also now have accessibility and that we can conform to WCAG 2.0 AA, not AAA, and Section 508 conformancies that we can do with the visualizations. What that basically means is you can use your keyboard to maneuver, like Alt will underline things like it does in Windows, so you can go use the File menu, Edit menu, menus like that using your keyboard and not a mouse. Also, it means that if you have a Tableau visualization like embedded in a website or something, and you were hearing impaired, you could invoke your screen reader and it would read you the website, but every time it got to Tableau, it would just hang. We've unhung it. Okay, so you really can't read a graph, a visualization, so it's not that conformant where it actually tells you, oh, well, we have blue over here and green. It doesn't do that, but it doesn't hang anymore, and it allows the person to consume the web page without Tableau getting in the way. We now have upgrading from the help menu. Watch this. Help. Check for product updates. That's it. And then it updates. Now, a word of caution about updating. For those of you that don't know, we have two products, Tableau Desktop, which I'm using here on my desktop or laptop, and we have Tableau Server, which is a much bigger laptop that everybody uses. And you make your wonderful visualization and you publish it out to the server, and then other people that you say are allowed to look at it from the server using a web browser, interact with it, edit it, whatever permission you give them to do. But there's a big rule with Tableau, and that is the server must be at an equal to or higher level versioning than your desktop. So if your server is now at 10.1 and Tableau is being nice enough to say, hey, we got a new version out there, 10.2, download it, give it a try, don't do it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be on 10.2 on your desktop, the server's on 10.1, you're going to make this great disk, and you're going to say publish the server, it says great, it's going to connect and say, I'm not going to do that. And now you have to sit there and wait for days, weeks, months, until the server matches your version and nobody can see your great work. So beware of your latest versioning. I believe that you get, and if you are able to log into the server and you publish to the server, you get a notification when the server has been upgraded to version whatever. That is when you can download that version and begin utilizing it, okay? This commercial brought to you by Mike. Yes, question on that. Yes, but it's not pretty. Well, the easiest cheat way is to leave. Is there a way to go back to a previous version? If you've downloaded 10.2, you would need to get a hold of a 10.1 one setup. And whatever you last installed on your computer is going to be your default. So you don't necessarily need to uninstall 10.2, but you need to reinstall 10.1 again, and it will be the last one in Windows registry. So when you open a file with Tableau, it'll open the 10.1 and 10.2 will just sleep there unless you manually go in and evoke it. Dynamic map scale on screen. So there's lots of questions about maps. That's good. I like maps. I like shapes. I used to play with blocks when I was 2. Okay. So here we have a new feature down at the bottom. It may not seem like much, but people love it. We now can show you that 1 inch equals 500 miles. Or if you're zoomed in tighter, Sydney Columbus here, 1 inch is 20 miles. So if you've been a person really wanting that, there it is. If not, you still get it. We give it to everybody. Okay, another thing with maps. Has anybody in here ever used spatial files and tried to bring them into Tableau? Has it been a fun experience? You can be honest with me. The answer is yes with the new version. He cheated. All right. It used to be, it was horrible. You'd have to download, it's not a spatial file in the company files, and you have to go and convert it to this, and then you had to go in an Excel spreadsheet and add these columns, and okay, forget it. We're not doing that. 10.2 gives you an easy way now to use spatial files. So here we are, and we have our Cook County data, right? And what we're going to do is we are going in here and we are going to add to our Cook County data a new file type called spatial file. And I click on that. Ah, yes. Now, of course, where is the spatial file? Let's see if I was logical and I included it where I should have. Nope, there it was. I missed it. It's right there. There is my spatial file that came out of Esri or some such thing. And if you don't know what Esri or some such thing is, you shouldn't be messing with this anyway. Okay, so you get a spatial file from the internet or Esri or whatever mapping you have, and you bring it now in as a data source. And it says, well, what do you want to hook this on? And I'm going to say, I think name was city. Let's see if that works. Yep, there we go. And it brings it together, my spatial file and my data file. And we now have from our spatial file a new field called geometry, which came from the spatial file. And when I double click on it, it brings up the precincts from Cook County. Remember, precincts was not one of our out of the box. So here we have now the different precincts, and you can overlay your numeric data, your color data, whatever you want. And it's the same concept you would use for a campus of the map as well. You could make, yeah, I get 1 applause. Okay, Chicago, hopefully I get 1 applause out of there too, you know. And yes, there are holes in my data because I don't have all the precinct information, but that is so much easier, folks. I can't tell you how much easier that is than the way it used to be. Oh, by the way, we've also intended to update some U.S. counties that had gone missing. We found them. We told them not to move anymore, and we've included them. All right. Now server. Remember, that's the big laptop over here that everybody shares. This is not going to excite many of you, but I have to go through it. We can customize now subscriptions, timings, and frequency. In other words, if there is a visualization on the server, you can subscribe to it and say, hey, I'd like to see that once a week, or I'd like to see that when the data changes. Or I'd like to see it, and it wasn't really fully flexible, but now it is, and you can tell it when you want to see it. So that's always nice. New to using the browser on the server, when you edit a visualization, you now can change the colors. Thinking, of course you can. Well, no, now you can. See, server is not as robust as the desktop. Server, however, in every point version is becoming more and more and more like the desktop. And I would theorize, but it's not in the plans at the moment, that someday they will be equal. So That we can assign specific colors is a good thing. We also allow you to use the top level menu. Again, this is like, well, who really cares? But some people do, right? See up here where it says file and data and worksheet. That is now on server as well. So some of these things are, fairly minor, but they make it that much closer to what it was. We also have guest access per site. And what that allows us to do is, if you have a server, a large server, you can say one section of the school can use this. Let's say students can use this site, and faculty can use that site. And it's as if they were two separate machines. That's been standard. Now we have something called guest access, which means you don't really need to log on if this site has guest access. Anybody can just go in and see everything. So you have to be careful what you publish there. There was a question. Can you collaborate on desktop and not just server? You can put annotations on your visualizations in desktop, but the whole point of collaboration is other people seeing it and messing with it, and that's what you do on server. Yes, we already talked about accessibility. It's also upgraded on server as well. So that is what is new in Tableau 10.2, which is out. And as soon as your server gets to that version, you too can have 10.2. All right, now I have another question. That'd be you.
On server, do I need to coordinate with the server admins in Python?
Yeah, I mean, the server itself would have to be able to, access that script and point it accordingly and get the information. With server, do you need to coordinate with the server admin and everything to make sure that you can use Python or R? So yeah, the server, and unless in your desktop visualization, you're integrated with it and you create the visualization and then you create what's called an extract file. Where with Tableau, you don't have to always be connected live to the database. Let's say your database is slow and ugly and it takes 5 minutes for your viz to show up. Tableau can't help bad data. We can't help you with that. But what we can do then is if you like this viz and you're going to be messing with it and showing it to other people, you can take the data and store it into a Tableau extract file. Now this data is not every little data point again. It's aggregated and summarized up to the level necessary to run the visualization. So it's a relatively small file. You can move that small file with your workbook to server, and then the server viz is only going to interact with that extract file. It's not even going to invoke the R or the Python behind it. It's just going to use the data that's already stored in there. All right. What is coming up in 10.3? Before I do that, okay, that's all the legal garbage that I have to show up there. You see it? Great, wonderful. It basically says, this is what we intend to do, but don't hold us to it. All right, for analytics, we can set up some data presets. We'll have templates. The templates is kind of interesting. Not only do we have templates, but we can allow you to look at data. You can say, I want to look at this data, that, and the other, and it'll automatically come up and say, hey, do you want me to automatically create some worksheets and stuff? Sure, go ahead. And so Tableau will do that automatically based off the data you've selected. Okay, accessibility enhancements again. We're going to do more with the screen reader, more with the deciphering in 10.3. Yes, question? You're looking at it right here. This is all we really know so far about the accessibility enhancements. The two requirements, again, were being able to use your keyboard and being able to use a screen reader. And that will be, it's somewhat usable in 10.2, and it's supposed to be fully functional in 10.3. Okay. What accessibility features are accessible? If I hold down the Alt key, I can press Alt S and the server drops down, and then I can type W to publish my workbook, and then I can hit Enter or use my arrow key or my tab to move around on this little window. So that is functioning right now. That is an accessibility conformance that we've adhered to. The other, as far as the screen reader, I can't demonstrate. In 10.2, it makes things stick. In 10.3, Tableau gets out of the way and allows the screen to be read. But again, if you are looking at a visualization such as I have here, how is a screen reader supposed to read this to me? It's all graphical. I mean, I do have some words on here, but most visualizations that we've seen so far today do not. So the best Tableau can do, I mean, the term for what we make is called visual analytics. There's only so much we can do for visually impaired people and still show them their data. So getting out of the way of the screen reader is the first step that we have underway right now. Question in the back.
The issue isn't so much if you think it's enough. The issue is when the state and the government says it is.
Yes.
We're under investigation.
Wait.
On our websites right now. So I think the answer is, are we actually in compliance with what the state and the national level is actually?
We are in compliance with, I had it on this one. Here we go. We conform to the WCAG 2.0 AA section, or AA, and the Section 508 conformant visualizations. We conform to the government definition, which is about 10 pages long. If you've never looked at it, go ahead and look at it. You'll have fun. Yeah. Okay, some updates on Android updates. Data-driven alerts, we've enhanced that capability so you can set a threshold in 10.3 where you can say when student enrollment rises above X percent or certain dollars or whatever, then notify me. So that's out there. Linking on mobile, I'm kind of blowing through some of these for the sake of time. Dashboards. If you're ever making pretty dashboards and you have different visualizations out there and everything, and you want everything to line up, you have to do it manually. In 10.3, you can distribute this across or top to bottom evenly, which is the click of a button. On the server, you'll be able to create and edit stories. A story we haven't really showed you today. You can create worksheets, you can create dashboards, and then you can create what's called a story, where imagine you have a dozen boxes across the top or dots across the top, like you'd swipe on your phone and the different pages are represented by dots. And as you swipe, you're showing a different visualization or a different dashboard. It's sort of like an answer to PowerPoint if you have a presentation you want to do. But now you'd be able to work with that on the server as well. Yeah, and we have caption boxes, numbers, or dots now. If you've ever used a story, it used to just be caption boxes. We can drill up on continuous axes on web authoring now. That's coming soon in beta. We have connectors coming up. Amazon Athena, CloudFile for Box and Dropbox, Denodo, some updates to JSON, MongoDB, PDF connector. If you have data anywhere in the world that's in a PDF, you can connect to that page or pages as a data source. I actually saw a demo of this a week ago. Pretty cool. Right now, in its pre-alpha stage, it can't handle crosstabs too well. It just, if you just have columns of data though, it reads that in and you can utilize it. You can join it. You can do anything you can do to data. They're working on getting to crosstabs and things like that. But the version I saw, which again was in its infancy, pretty cool just as it is. Do you guys store anything ever in a PDF? Just wondering. Okay. You can get to it and use it as data now. Well, in 10.3. We can connect to ServiceNow, ITSM, and there will be more updates, of which has not even been disclosed to me yet, on spatial files and how to use them. Okay, we will have Oracle, on Oracle Cloud, data that is. We'll be able to have SAP full extract and XML support. You'll be able to save data sources on the web, on like a cloud environment. Smart table and join recommendations. That's what I told you about earlier, where it comes up and it says, hey, do you want me to, make these visualizations? Another thing it'll do that in 10.3 they showed was I've chosen this data source. And it'll say, hey, that's a great data source, but you know what? Most people who choose this data source choose this one, this one, this one to join to it or union. Do you want to do that? Sure. And you just do it. So it comes up with recommendations to help. You can always say no, right? Let's see, we'll have SSL support for DB2 and Sybase Kerberos support. API is kind of a way to program backdoor Tableau. There will be APIs for the REST API update. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. And we will have visual desktop support. Server-wise, so your server admin will like this, is we'll have automatic license return. So if it's ever uninstalled, your license gets returned and you don't have to worry about that. Custom schedules for Tableau Online, that's new. Remember I said we had Tableau Desktop and we have Tableau Server. Well, we have something else called Tableau Online, and that's where we've taken a server and we put it in our environment in Tableau, a cloud platform, and you can put your installation of Tableau Server on our machines and we'll just handle it for you. That's Tableau Online. Well, now you can have, that's supposed to say custom, not customer. So you can have custom schedules on the Tableau Online environment. We will have Linux support where your server can be Linux or Windows. Also, if you do have multiple sites, remember one's for students and one's for administration that I had. If you are allowed to go to both, you can't see everything at once, no. But what you can do in 10.3 is with the click of a button, whoop, flip from one back to the other, hit the microphone on the way. Okay, that's brand new. And then we have Tableau Bridge coming up in 10.3. If you have an online service, if you're putting Tableau on the cloud, say in AWS, or using Tableau Online, you can use Tableau Bridge to connect that to your data live, which is brand new. Before you had to have everything in extracts if it was on Tableau Online or AWS or somewhere in the cloud. Now you can have it connect directly to it. All right. I lost my notes. I had my notes baked right into this thing. Let me close this and open it again and see if I can find it, because there was something else I needed to show you guys. Apparently I didn't auto-save. There they are. Okay. Cross-database join versus blending. You wanted me to talk a little bit about that. So if we have a cross-database join, what that is where we have data coming from two different data sources. Once again, there we go. Okay. Okay, so this is where I had full name and I connected it to first name plus last name. Remember when I did that? That is sort of like a cross-database join because I had two tables of information. They happen to both be Excel, but it really doesn't matter. They can be anything. And it takes data from one and links to data on another. What Tableau does if you come in here and create a join is it will take record number one from this data source A, and it'll find what it's linking on data source B, and it'll say, oh, that's what's called an indexed field. That's database talk for I can get to that data real fast. And it'll go and it'll find that one record and match them up. It'll do the next, it'll do the next, it'll do the next. Very efficient. So if you have 500 rows of data in A and 2 billion in B, you're only going to connect to 500 records out of that billions in B. Very fast, very efficient. Data blending is where I would be on a worksheet, and you can see that I have a data source up here. I could have another data source, and I have not joined them. But here on my worksheet, I've said make full name link to first and last name, but I do it here on the worksheet. What that does then is it brings in all of table A, the 500 rows, and all 10 billion rows of table B and tries to stuff all that in your memory and it holds it. And then you come to the worksheet and you say, oh, I want to connect them together. So in memory it does that. It's very slow, it's very cumbersome. It is useful in certain applications, but by and large, if you have the opportunity to join your data sources up here, the more the merrier. Also, a nice thing with Server is you can create a real complicated join with 10 tables. So I bring in all these tables and I join this to that and that to this and this and I put filters on, everything is great. Everyone's going to want to use this. You can take this 10 table join and save it off to the server as a single data source. So if somebody new comes into Tableau and says, I want to use that data source, they would connect right here where it says Tableau server, and they would get a list of published data sources. And your monster 10-table join one would simply say, my wonderful data source. And they would bring that in as a single data source, and they would have no idea what's going on in the background. So that's helpful a lot of times. If you're more advanced, you can publish out data source connections that the less advanced folks can utilize well. We had a question. Absolutely not. That's called data cleansing. We do have a new product coming out called Maestro, which is an ETL, which means extract, transform, and load data. And that's what you would need for that type of thing. By the way, historically, hand-typed address, street-level information has been messy and will continue until, but no, X equals X, Y equals Y, and, X kind of looks like Y, but it's missing a leg. No, that doesn't work. Okay. And if you think about it, that can create all kinds of problems if it did work. Duplications. A level of detail, for instance, one's... Okay. Yep. That's another thing you need to consider when you're joining is different aggregation levels. For instance, this table may have one Joe Schmo, and this... I love that name, by the way. And this table, table B, will have 3 entries for maybe 3 different Joe Schmoes, but it's Joe Schmo. It will join 3 different times, and this data in table A will be duplicated in the data. So you would need, that is one case where you might choose to do data blending. Is your second data source, you would aggregate all your Schmoes up, and then it would just go from Schmo to Schmo once. What I have to work with. Yes. There's not a distinct button, but there is a count distinct function and functionality like that where you can find distinctness, yes. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, you can say, give me the distinct full name. Give me the, and it'll just give you the one without necessarily aggregating it, just giving you that label. It's basic value. Missing values. Okay, missing value is also not really an issue. Let me show you. I'll give you a 2-second tour of joining here. Let me get my second sheet that I had, if I can get to it real quick here. Okay, so this was where I was calculating full name and last name and that. I'm not going to hook that together right now, but we have 4 different kinds of joins, and this is part of database knowledge. You have what's called an inner join. And if you look at the spheres, I start on the left and I say, whatever's in this circle, I want you to join to whatever's in this circle, but only give me where it exactly overlaps, where it exactly matches. So if something's missing, it will not show up, not from A or B, only what exactly matches. The next one is called a left outer join, and that means give me everything from my initial data source and link wherever possible to the data on the left. I'm sorry. Yeah, it all depends, but ideally the cleaner the data, the better. If you are linking one-to-one, you're going to get the fastest performance. This has nothing to do with Tableau. This is computers in general, and no matter what you use. If you have what's called a left join where you're saying, give me everything from source A and only give me what you can find in source B, that also runs fairly quickly. Exactly. If you do something that's called a full outer join, which means give me everything from A, give me everything from B, and when you can, join them together, that's real slow and ugly. We try to avoid that in the IT world whenever possible. Tableau is not Mr. Clean. He doesn't run around in a white suit and scrub your bathroom for you. If you have a dirty bathroom, that's still your problem, okay? But we do give you option to help with that. Like, for instance, if you have, I showed you earlier, a country that somebody made a typo. Okay, that's a one-off. I can fix that, right? I showed you how to fix that. So we can help a little bit, but germs and disinfectant, it's on you. Yep. Yep, that happens. All right, let me show you another feature that we have, device preview. If you're going to publish out on server, you have anybody with a mobile device can download Tableau app. Of course, they need credentials to get into your server to sign on and whatnot. But what you can do with a device preview is I can say, let's see, I have a desktop. And I want my visualization to look like this on the desktop. But if I'm using a cell phone, I want to have it like this, but this is crazy. This is nuts. I can't live like this. We're going to take and put that there, and we're going to totally get rid of this. And actually, you know what? My fingers are too big. I can't even click on these states. So I'm going to get rid of this visualization. And there we go. This is a much cleaner look. So now, if I publish this and then I access the server by my cell phone, this is the view I'm going to get. If I'm on a computer and I access the same version, this is the view I'm going to get. And you can alter and change that for mobile devices. So that's one thing that, that you guys said that you wanted to see about, and that was pretty much it. All right. We are less than 1 minute from 11:30, so this better be a quick question, sir. Too late. Okay, moving on. No, go ahead. What's your question? No, that's from the Tableau server logging into the Tableau server. When you can take visualizations and embed them in like public-facing websites and whatnot. When you do that, you have to define a frame in your website to certain dimensions. They are, by the way, working on making that more dynamic, but it has to be X by Y pixels, and that's how big your visualization needs to be to fit into that. All right, one more question. Going once, going twice. All right, we are done with what's new in Tableau. Hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of this. Are we going to take a 10-minute break or something while we switch this, or are we just going right through? I'm out of here. Okay, no break.
Now in the presentation. Let's see if I know what I'm doing. Here we go. Yep. Can you see our screen in about? Can you hear us a bit better? Doesn't look like it. Oh, we're very nice.
Screen. Right here? Here? No, no. Switch over a little. Sorry. Oh, here. Okay. Sorry. So then I just put it in. I'm sorry? Yeah. That's correct. So I'm just going to introduce you guys. You guys can sit down at the table. Dale official, and then I'll introduce you.
All right.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Perfect.
So you're going to repeat questions either there or here for the other folks. So this is,
And we probably won't get to a lot of time anyhow.
will you go directly to the panel and clean up Chicago?
I'm going to just introduce it, and then
To Chicago? We're going to introduce
I'm just going to say a few words, and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
Is that
So
cool?
the panel sitting up here, that's why.
Oh yeah. They're just going to be up here because after Chicago, then Nate's going to go. Does that make sense?
All right, everyone. We're going to start in just a minute. Okay, well, the good thing is that you all had a lot of questions, which is fabulous. I love it. We have a Tableau user group here at, it's called the Illinois Higher Education Tableau User Group. And like I said, we had merged with Tableau to bring you all here today. We do have an ongoing user group forum that we get together. Some of you have been there, and some of you haven't, but that is a great place that we look to enhance and build the networking that I think we all appreciate when we have questions and we can bounce those things off together, because we can't always have Alex and Rick in the room, so we use each other, and it's a really great way for us to, because we've developed, and today what we're going to do, time-wise, we know everyone's got things that they have to do at 12, so we're going to try to get as much in as we can. We've rallied a couple of our users and developers together to bring to you some of their experiences, some of their challenges, or just things that they think that would be useful to convey to you. So is the audio okay? And in Chicago, I'm feeling, is that all good? Okay. Okay, so with that said, I'm Tara Sadler. I work for AITS, and I'm a developer in Tableau, as well as Archana Mandala. She's up at the table up here in front. She's also a developer business intelligence specialist is our title. Nate right? Britain. I'm sorry, I told my dad at the beginning. He is a senior application developer specialist and going to give us some tips on things that he's experienced. And in Chicago, we have Dale Rush, who's an associate dean of administrative affairs at the College of Pharmacy at UIC. And we're going to start off with him. And so I'm going to kind of, Colleen's going to give control to him, and we're going to hear him give a little bit of a couple tips and tricks.
Hello, Urbana. Can you guys hear us okay?
We're good.
Okay. As Colleen said, my name is Dale Rush. I'm the Associate Dean for Administrative Affairs at the College of Pharmacy. We'll be back there. And so when I first started about 2.5 years ago, I was kind of asked to help the college become a little bit more data-centric and data-focused. Being one of the premier colleges of pharmacy, we wanted to kind of really begin to focus more on our strategic plan and use data to help us track our progress on meeting certain objectives that we can set out with the college. But as you saw today already, Tableau is a great resource and tool. But before you dive into Tableau, you kind of need to figure out what are we going to do first. Not letting go. It's not letting go. I might just hit the note down there. Okay. Sorry, a little technical difficulties. There we go. Before jumping in, you kind of have to realize that this really needs to be a team effort. And so before we even dive in, we kind of have to figure out what was the kind of categories of information we wanted to start collecting. And so I met with all of our stakeholders, all of our other associate deans and our dean through the College of Pharmacy to kind of figure out what were those categories we wanted to capture. So some of the things we wanted to focus on was our reputation, students, financial, some of the kind of the key categories that you would normally think of as knowledge. And so we worked together to begin to identify what were the data metrics that we wanted to kind of focus on. Once we had identified the data metrics, then became the hard work, right? How are we going to then get to those data metrics? Okay, it started with, first of all, what were the data sources we were going to think about collecting? Fortunately, here at the University of Illinois, we have a very robust enterprise data warehouse that has a wealth of information. But, you know, for benchmark purposes, particularly when we're trying to benchmark ourselves against other colleges of pharmacy, we had to figure out what were other data sources that we need to collect from. Fortunately, we have a very robust Association of American Colleges of Pharmacy that they do annual surveys. And so we were able to collect a lot of that information so that we could compare ourselves. We also need to figure out, did we really know what we were doing yet? No. And so fortunately, we knew of a lot of friends and colleagues across the university that we could reach out to. And so we were able to work closely with our College of Nursing, who had been using Tableau for quite a while. I had actually come from the College of Medicine, and they have some wonderful resources to help us figure out how we were going to create some of our queries for the data collection. And so we kind of worked together collectively to see what were resources, what had already been built, and kind of research some of that. Then we had to figure out, okay, now it's time to start actually getting the data ready for Tableau. Well, how are we going to do that? You know, for some of our complex queries, we utilize SAS. It's a very robust database system. Some of the sources of data we collected from AACP, that was only in Excel format. And so we wanted to make sure we inventory exactly where and how we're going to download the data from those different sources. And then from there became the finished product. You know, planning is very critical when it comes to Tableau because you can build it, but also remember, and I know this having been an ex-database developer and administrator, once you build it, you got to maintain it. And so you need to also be thinking through some of the issues of how are you going to maintain it, what's the most efficient way to collect the data, how can you automate some of the data collection. Fortunately, utilizing SAS and Windows, we have annual, bi-weekly, monthly kind of data queries that are automatically run and then uploaded into shared folders that Tableau taps into directly. You want to make sure that you're trying to kind of conserve your own time and effort going forward because, you know, the second you build one, then it becomes 5, then it becomes 20. And I think actually we're up to about 50 dashboards just for our strategic plan in itself. And so going through those planning strategy sessions beforehand will save you a lot of time at the end. And I'll turn it back over to you, Colleen.
Talk with you all about some things. We want to have some time to get some feedback from you. So if you do have questions, hopefully there'll be time at the end for us to field those questions.
All right. Let me just flip over. All right. So I just want to talk briefly about a few things that I ran into when we started that kind of tripped me up a little bit. And most of this, if you've done quite a bit, you may have run into some of this already. And I'm talking mostly about data formatting before you start bringing it into the Viz and start building, you know, your actual visualizations. Tableau likes normalized data, if you're used to building, you know, these big cross tabs in Excel with 100 columns of all different data points, it'll work. But you may find yourself fighting the formatting a lot more than you actually spend building the Viz. If you normalize it a little, bring it down, categorize so that there's less like numeric values per column, you'll actually find in the end, it's a lot easier to build a lot of the different aggregates. One of the first big data sources I built was built this way, and I fought it constantly when I first started. While you're going and modifying the data, it's really important also to keep an eye on the level of detail when you have multiple data sources. Of course, if you can bring in from, you know, multiple sources, but when you do, if you bring in 2 or 3 sources that are that are data by day, and you bring in a monthly aggregate along with it, your level of detail you're ever going to be able to get through that is monthly at that point, which is another thing that if you doesn't click in your head instantly, you'll spend a while fighting like I did, and it's not a fun realization when you realize it. That brings up the point. Tableau does really good at aggregating and summarizing data. It's a big part of the tool. If you bring in pre-aggregated data, you're basically only getting the visualization part of it, and not only that, it's harder to you're not going to find a lot of tutorials to do the sorts of things you want to do, or be able to get a lot of help if you're working with that aggregated data. So try to avoid bringing in already aggregated data.
They're saying both sides.
Oh, where's the, I don't know about this. This
one maybe?
Black or unblock slideshow. Oh,
This is my settings.
excellent. Now I just got to figure out back. And I can't work Excel. I'm sorry. So,
Okay, don't worry about it.
all right, let me go back. Sorry, I've got it in display mode because I can't work Excel. But, let's go. Sorry, I lost my place. When you're joining data, one of the things when you're building your data, you're getting ready to bring it into Excel. I found it way easier for me, at least, being a SQL programmer, to do a lot of my aggregation ahead of time. And there was a couple of reasons for that. I've noticed with seeing a lot of the 10.2 and 10.3 that Rick has shown, for the way that joins work in SQL now, or in Tableau now. It's a lot easier to bring forward to do your joins on your data sets in the data connector. In previous versions, it was sometimes a little dicier. So if no matter what your underlying data set is, I found it much easier to do as many joins as I can ahead of time, then using Tableau joins as a second step, and then Tableau blends as a last-ditch option when I want to bring data together between various points.
Does that mean drive Tableau off of views instead of tables? Is that how you do the joins ahead of time?
Sorry, I was asking, does that mean drive it off of views instead of tables? That is one way to approach it. You could either set up views ahead of time in SQL, or you could set up a stored procedure in SQL that produces the data. That's SQL specific, but just depending on your different data sets, there's usually an option for blending or for doing your joins there prior to getting it forward. So we did I set up quite a few views. The next bullet point here is actually disingenuous. It's not that Excel gets some special treatment. What I really mean to say is different data sources are treated differently. If you pop online, you find a tutorial and it talks about this great data cleansing feature, and you throw out an ugly table you've imported from some file, it may just not, you're not going to find the data cleaning, and that's because it doesn't work on SQL tables. It doesn't work on certain data sets. It's not often you want to use it, but in the off chance you do, you're going to find quickly that you need to import a CSV to use the data cleanser. And some of that may have changed in the last version, I'm not sure. But anytime you're finding someone saying, hey, this is a great thing and you can do this, and you can't do it, make sure to dig a little deeper and make sure that they actually support what you're trying. The other thing I've ran into that caused a lot of grief for me is, since I was a SQL programmer, is if you go to use any of the SQL databases, just because you can write the SQL and it's valid SQL doesn't mean Tableau's data connector will accept it. My problem was common table expressions. There's a lot of different things there's a lot of SQL you can write that it will just error out because of the way that it does the query. So resort back to views or stored procedures to feed. And I'm going to skip the very last point on here, but I will say extracts are a key point when you're working with the data. And whether or not you're going to publish an extract or not to the server, it's so much nicer to just do the extract while you're manipulating the data set anyway, so that you get quick response time. So all that argument aside, there's tons of talks about whether you need an extract or a live connection. Just do yourself a favor and do an extract on the workbook while you're changing it around, so you don't have to wait for it to re-query your database. Even if it's only a couple seconds each time, it adds up really quickly. And with that, I'm going to hand it over.
Hi. I wanted to share my experience using spatial files in Tableau. So Rick has already gone through some part of my presentation, so I'm going to move quickly so you can have more time for questions. Basically, what I was trying to do is from Tableau 10.2 onwards, you could connect directly to any certain types of spatial files. I was connecting to ESRI shape files and using those custom shapes within my visualizations. So what you have to keep in mind is you have to have a certain set of files along with the actual spatial file itself in one folder for Tableau to be able to recognize it and pull it up on your dashboard. For my shape file, I needed the .shx, .shp, prj, and the dbf files, all of them in one folder. So earlier I initially started doing this custom shape files in 10.1, and I was running into several issues. I had to run the shape files through a couple of conversion tools, and then that in turn created Excel spreadsheets which I could use in Tableau. So using the spreadsheet, I was running into issues with data granularity when I joined it with my other data for analysis. Or like if I tried to do data blending, I was limited on some functionality, and I couldn't do aggregations with count distincts, or I couldn't use median functions. So using the shapefile worked perfectly fine. So what Tableau does is when you pull up the shapefile, it creates a geometry field at the back end. It points the data points on the map, in as data, as individual points, or it can even create polygons. So yeah, this Rick has already gone through it. You can have, you can open up Tableau Desktop and go to Connect and select the spatial file option there. You need to navigate to the folder where you have all your shapefile and the other information, and open up the shapefile. Tableau creates the geometry field in the measure section, and all you have to do is double click on the geometry and it plots the map for you. You can join the shapefiles with any other data, like I'm using a custom query that I'm running against the database and trying to show that information in my map. So, and this works perfectly fine on Tableau Desktop, and I was running into some issues when I was publishing it on Tableau Server. That's only when you use a live connection to the database. If you use an extract, it works fine, but when you have a live connection to the database, we're running into issues with random errors on the server where sometimes it's unable to connect to the data source, so it's not able to find the shape file in there. So we have a ticket open with Tableau for it, and they think it's a defect and they're working on it right now, so probably in the next release they'll have a fix for it. So that's one thing you could keep in mind. And I'll turn it to Tara now.
Okay, so I know that I've been asked to, through requirements, develop something, but I don't know how I did it. And I don't know if any of you guys have been in that situation, but I have. So how do I do it? The example I chose is not for, it's just an example of not knowing something that you're trying to figure out. And one of the things was there is when using a reference line, much like we are using here, it's hard to see on the screen, but there is a reference line that's 2021 target, and you can customize that by editing a reference line and customizing the label and naming it what you want it to be named. But in the tooltip, it shows some of our target values, not a pretty way to display a tooltip if it's not as nice as what you would want, but there's no way to customize that. And I researched and went out and tried to figure out how to do it, and it turns out that there are a lot of other people who are wanting the same thing, but Tableau has not integrated that into into the tool. So hopefully maybe in the future, I know there's been some people who have reached out and requested that, so but the point of that is that not only, that's just one example, but there's so many different examples of things that happen all the time when you're developing or when you're a user and you wish you could have that or you're asking for this. And if we are uncertain of how to do that, to expedite it or just to help, not only for feedback or maybe workarounds, examples, advice, confirmation that no, you can't do it, or yeah, I've done it. The key is collaboration and reaching out to the other Tableau users, everyone in the room, be it if you've used it, you don't, you want to use it, use any of the things. It's that we are building this network to help expedite or those types of requests. Again, enhancing ways to collaborate, learning from one another. I know that I've learned from some people in the room. When I've had a question, I called up someone and said, hey, have you done this? And they said, tried that, it doesn't work. It just is a great way. We all do that in our jobs. So one thing I just wanted to point out is that we have the user group, but in the future, look towards, there's going to be some small changes that we're going to be doing. I want to take, this forum is great for bringing us together, having some presentations, having people come in. We're still going to do that. We're going to work on trying to maybe creating listservs where we want you guys involved, we want you guys asking questions, we want you guys asking questions of one another. That's the networking that we want to happen. Hearing from us is great, and we're happy to give the information and be up here talking, but we want you guys to be talking to one another, and so we're trying to find best ways to do that. So look in the future when you see some communication coming out about listservs, that's what it's going to be for. It's going to be trying to enhance that for everybody, because I think that's what everyone is needing and wanting, and you can help that grow and foster. I'm going to hand it off. Please, we're short on time, so any of us are welcome for questions after that. I do want to open up. What is the time? It's 12? Okay. Mike Wunderlich, I'm not sure if he's still in the room, had some updates for Tableau server, but does anyone have any questions right now quickly about anything that we talked about? Yes.
So for the Illinois, I'm looking at your webpage
Yes.
right now for the Tableau Illinois community. Do you guys hold like weekly or monthly work sessions together?
That's a very good question. The question was, do we, the user group, do we have weekly or sessions or monthly sessions? That's one of the things that we're going to try to enhance. So the communication that we are going to be putting out is going to be about having more informal meetings, more work meetings, and that's kind of what we were trying to do with the panel. We were a little stretched in time. Is like people just kind of give their little questions or something that they've done. People hear it, people ask questions and whatnot. Yes.
Are there folks in the group who are making instructional use of Tableau?
Instructional use in what?
So, for instance, I'm going to be teaching a geographic information systems course in the fall, and I'm planning on blending in Tableau topics. I'm wondering if there are others at the university who are utilizing Tableau in courses.
I don't know. That's a really great question. I think that's exactly one of the things that we can find out if we start using these forms to talk. Because I don't know if anybody else is on any other listservs, but you see people popping out, questions, and sometimes you don't care, so you just kind of move past it. But something pops out to you, you respond. So, good question. I'm going to hand it off to Mike, and then like I said, we're here for questions after. Thank you.
Is there a slide for me?
There it is. I made you one.
Oh, boy.
I don't know if that is
It's close enough.
applicable.
All right. I'm Mike Wunderlich from AITS, and the first thing I'm going to do is answer his question. Yes, I intend to include it in the class I'm teaching in the fall. So I'm going to explore the possibility of Tableau does allow academic licensing, so we may set up a whole separate academic server so that it doesn't interfere with and mix with other stuff. I just have to make sure I know I don't want to tread any toes by creating an academic one when I'm in AITS. So what's my job? I take care of the Tableau server for the University of Illinois, I and my team. We have 3 of us that take care of it. And I wanted to talk about Tableau server upgrades, especially since Rick talked about them earlier. So here's what we typically do. We're allowed with our license 1 production and 2 non-production installations of Tableau server. So obviously the production license is tableau.admin.uillinois.edu. We also have Tableau-test as a non-production one, which is intended for you to use as a practice environment before you put things into production. We also have Tableau upgrade, which is -UPG. And that is the one where we put the newer versions of Tableau software on, and then periodically we'll send out a note saying, hey, there's a newer version, please help test it. We do have a 4th. We do occasionally experiment with beta systems that they have. So for example, we do have 10.3 beta. Fortunately, that's a separate license, so it doesn't interfere with our first 3. So our norm, what we try to do is when, for example, 10.2 came out, which was the end of February, about 30 days later, so about once a month, Tableau releases a maintenance patch for their dot releases. So 10.2.1 came out about 4 or 5 weeks after the initial one. We typically wait for that first maintenance patch just to address the initial bugs they may have missed in their testing. And then that's the one that we install on the upgrade server. We send an email to anybody on the Tableau production system that is identified as a publisher and has ever logged in. So if you have never logged in, you don't get the email. But that's our two conditions. That's what we call active publishers. We send an email out. We let you know, hey, we have installed 10.2.1 on the Tableau upgrade server. Please go try out your visualizations, because occasionally a new version will alter the way the formatting works. We let you try that out depending on the severity of the changes that we've encountered, somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks, and then we will schedule within the server upgrades, the deployment timeline, and then we upgrade Tableau Test and Tableau Production on the same morning, typically a Sunday morning during the AITS update window. Why haven't we done 10.2 if it came out at the end of February? Well, I'll tell you, it's got a bug. It had 2. Both of them related to the new shapefiles for maps. They were excellent. The first one, they had the code fix bundled and included in 10.2.1 with a date, and they fixed it. And so now dashboards that use the new shapefiles with live queries work for a while, and then they stop working. And they don't work again until you republish them or we bounce the server. We didn't think that was a quality feature to put in production, so we're waiting. It's in the hands of their development group. They have been able to recreate the problem, and I believe that they are probably not far, hopefully, from having a fix for it. They're either going to give us a workaround or the actual code fix. As soon as they do, we'll get that installed on the upgrade server, and we will send that announcement out. What if you just can't wait to try out the new features of 10.2? Go for it. Tableau Upgrade is currently on version 10.2.2. So the first bug fix is still in there. The second one, of course, is not, because they haven't found it yet. But take a look if you want to try out some of the new features of 10.2 that Rick talked about earlier. It's there. We copy production content into the upgrade server periodically. Jash can confirm for me, but I believe it's about 3 weeks old. Copy of production. What if you got something in test that you've been working on that's been in the last 3 weeks? Go publish it on Tableau Upgrade. If you've got a different project in test that you don't have in production and you want to be able to publish to it, let me know. We can create another project for you. So that's the reason we've not done 10.2. I anticipate 10.3. I'm making a guess because I am not Tableau. 10.3 will probably be coming out next month. So will 10.3 have a bug fix in it? Only if they have found it and put it in there. So if 10.3 comes along, the bug fix gets in there, we may just skip 10.2 and go for 10.3 and then get all those new features. So that's what we try to do with the server upgrades. Rick pointed out that your desktop software will prompt you when a new version comes along. Don't remove the old one, because keep using the old one for as long as you can. You can verify what version of software we have for the Tableau server. Somewhere on the page is an about, and if you look in about, it will tell you the version number. So like I said, we are currently on 10.1.23, something like that. It's a maintenance patch. They come out with those maintenance patches, like I said, about once a month. We typically don't, we wait for the first one. We don't put the others on unless somebody's reported a bug that we know it fixes, since the dot releases come out quarterly. So, yep, they have 4 or 5 a year. So it seems like we are always doing a Tableau upgrade, but it's because there's always something new and better. Any questions about the Tableau server? I will say, because we also do the answers.uillinois.edu, 2 Tableau topic documents are, I think, in the top 5 or 6 regularly. Publisher information, which is a good get started guide, and how to embed in websites. You query that frequently. Are lots of people trying to embed visualizations in websites? It seems to be really catching on. If you go look at the university website, uillinois.edu, navigate down, there are a number of visualizations that Tara and Archana have written and put out there. As always, if you ever need assistance from my team, submit a question to the service desk, and it will get routed to us, and we will work it as quickly as we can. Somebody will get a hold of you and work through your question or request. Your project requests we try to do as quickly as we can. Jess gets on them usually within a day. So, all right. Thank you very much. Tara?
Thank you. I just want to remind you that there is food in the back, so grab something on your way out. Thank you, Tableau, for supplying all the yummy goodies, coming down, talking to us. Thank you, Planning Committee, Tableau, Randy, Rick, Jayesh, Colleen, tirelessly working, making everything go. Dimitri, UIUC in Chicago, there's people all over the place. Thank you for joining. And again, we really want to reach out and draw people together. So anyway, reach out with questions that you have to us in any of the many ways that you can. Thanks again. Have a great day.